Hello everybody. For my final project, I'm going to be talking about the evolution of the Sahara Desert. To start, I'm going to give some general info on the Sahara. The Sahara is the largest hot desert in the world. The only deserts it is smaller than are Antarctica and the Arctic, both of which are cold deserts. The Sahara covers 3.6 million square miles, which makes up a third of Africa. It is common to think of the Sahara as made entirely up of sand dunes, but they make up only about 15% of the desert. The Sahara also includes mountains, sand-covered plains, salt flats, and many more land features. Water is scarce in the Sahara, as it only rains about 3 inches per year. However, because of its size, there are different climates in different parts. For example, the northern Sahara has a Mediterranean climate, where it has rain during the winter. Other parts might not even see rain for a few years. There are two big rivers, the Nile River and the Niger River. There are also many seasonal lakes. The Sahara is very dry. Winds from the northeast dry out the air. These winds can be very fast and cause severe dust storms. Some dust from the Sahara gets into trade winds and can make its way across the world. Now that we know the basics of present-day Sahara, let's go back and see how the Sahara has gotten like this. The first era I'm talking about is the Sahara during the Mesozoic era. This era is known for dinosaurs. Everything about the Sahara during this time is much different than it is today. This era ranges from about 200 million to 66 million years ago. During this era, the Sahara was covered in a vast river system, which was home to many aquatic and terrestrial animals. What makes this time period and these animals so unique were how dangerous they were. A couple of animals were saber-toothed Charcharodontosaurus, an over 8-meter length with enormous jaws and long serrated teeth up to 8 inches long, and the Deltodomeus, which is around 8 meters in length and a member of the raptor family with long, unusually slender hind limbs. Most of the animals that occupied this area relied on the abundance of fish to survive. A lot of these fish were massive. The coal calanth, a fish that is still around today, was 4 times bigger than it was today. Today they are around 6 feet and 200 pounds, so you can imagine how big it was back then. Although the climate might have made this place a great area for humans to inhabit, the size and ferociousness of the animals that inhabited it would have made it very dangerous. Dr. Ibram, a professor at the University of Detroit Mercy, said, "This was arguably the most dangerous place in the history of planet Earth, a place where a human time traveler would not last very long." The next era, the Sahara, I call it early Sahara, and I'm classifying it as around 2.5 million to 700,000 years ago. This time period would coincide with the Pliocene and mid-Pleistocene geographic eras. This is a time of great change in northern Africa. The climate during this era would be described as semi-arid to subhumid tropical climate. But throughout this era, northern Africa experienced deteriorating tropical conditions. Many species did not survive this climate change. Stylophipparian, a wild African horse, Elephas africanus, and Liberatherium, an antlered animal, all disappeared. However, many animals, like white rhinos, are still alive today, or were alive 100 years ago, survived this time. It is important to note which animals survived and which didn't, because it is proof of change from tropical climate to a more Mediterranean climate that some species could not live in. The next era is the late Sahara. This era I'm considering is about 200,000 to 11,000 years ago. This falls into the Upper Pleistocene and the Holocene geographic eras. The Holocene is the geological time period we are currently in. This period is when the last two alpine glaciations occurred, Rise and Womb. The Sahara was not directly hit by either glaciations, but the climate did cool down significantly. Many types of artifacts and cave paintings are proof of many different groups of people living in the Sahara at this time. Because we know that this era was home to the most humans, we can conclude that this climate was in fact the coldest the Sahara has ever been, and there were also much more rivers and sources of water than there were today. After the global cooling stopped, the climate warmed. Also, a lot of dust was blown from the northeast, which ended up burying and drying up many of the rivers in the Sahara. Now we're to the present-day Sahara. The present-day Sahara consists of the rest of the Holocene area, which is the past 11,000 years. During this era, the Sahara changed back into a dry and arid climate with very little rainfall. Like mentioned before, the only two water sources available in this massive Sahara are the Nile and Niger rivers. Although these rivers are big, they are not enough to support large groups of people, which is why there's not as many humans living in Sahara as there was. This arid climate is getting worse as global climate warms. For thousands of years, the Sahara Desert has grown during dry seasons and shrunk back during rainy seasons, leaving it around the same size. Now, because of global warming, the Sahara's dry season is much longer than the wet seasons, causing the desert to grow much more than it shrinks. A study from the Journal of Climate states that the Sahara has grown 10% since 1920. We need to help stop global warming, or we risk the Sahara growing to the size of all of Africa. Alright, and here's my works cited. Thank you for listening.